Hey guys, what's going on? This is Tom from the Strength Agenda and another version of Tom Talks. This time we are talking about sponsorship. I've gotten a lot of questions about this one, and it kind of took me a little bit to get all the proper information and everything out there, but I think we got this one pretty down pat. So hopefully this helps you out if you're trying to obtain sponsorship or you're trying to keep your sponsors happy. First off, I would like to take a shout out to my sponsors, Hate Brand Goods, run by Matt Vincent and Mike Beach, Blonix, and UR supplements. You are the answer. Those are three really great sponsors that I have. They have been tremendous to me. They take really good care of me, and I can never be grateful enough for everything that those three companies do for me and help me progress along as I add new aspects to my life, to business, all that stuff. So guys, Blonix, UR, and Hate, thank you very much for being with me. What is a sponsorship supposed to be? Essentially speaking, it's an exchange of goods and services for representation of that brand or a product or whatever the heck they offer. You are, doing something in return for them to give you something. That's essentially what a sponsorship is. Usually speaking, when it comes to a company, they target the best in the field because they figure the best in the field have A, the most experience, and B, the most following, so their reach is going to be the biggest. So that's why you see a lot of the big names in certain sports that have all these endorsement deals, because they're, the sponsors are hoping that with the audience that those guys have, they're going to be able to draw, a bigger group to their product and get their product in more people's hands, which makes them more money in the long run. Usually in a full-on sponsorship, the athlete is compensated in some form or fashion, whether it's through payment, whether it's through gear, whether it's through supplements, or whatever the sponsorship is. The athlete is usually compensated. If you just have a code that you get a discount for something, that's an ambassador program. That's not necessarily a full-on sponsorship. A full-on sponsorship is when the company takes care of you and they are reimbursing you for your time in some form or fashion. But in today's day and age in social media, what actually is a sponsorship? Usually it's the prettiest face, the biggest Instagram following, the best, body, so to speak. That's the person that's really good at using filters, that is really good at promoting whatever the product is that company is trying to promote. They might not be the most experienced, they might not be even the best in their field, but because they got a pretty face, they have a huge Instagram following for showing a little bit of skin, companies are willing to take a risk and have them as their sponsored athletes so they can get their product out there for more people. 9 times out of 10, these people don't use this stuff. They have either little experience, and like I said before, they're usually not the best in their field. Now, if this offends some of you, I apologize. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. But given the way social media is these days, that is how sponsorships work. They take the biggest following, and whether you really are qualified to speak on the product or the service or whatever, doesn't matter. As long as you got a big audience that's going to bring them more money, they don't care. In my experience though, when you're looking for sponsorships, or you're trying to talk to companies, or you're trying to make your sponsors happy, I fell into this trap a while back, and I did a really good job of navigating it. Only work with companies you actually either believe in or are willing to endorse. There is a ton of stuff out there. There's a lot of riffraff, there's a lot of nonsense out there. So you want to be able to do stuff and work with companies that you actually believe in. The 3 companies that I work with, I believe in their messages, I believe in their products, and I use it all the time. And I tell all my athletes, I tell my friends, I tell anybody that will listen to me, hey, this is the stuff you got to use and or buy. Because I believe in it, and that's the biggest thing. That's probably the honesty, plain and simple. Honesty between you and your sponsorship. If you're just taking something for the free T-shirts or the free protein powder or whatever, but you don't really believe in it, that's not okay. That's not fair to you, and that's not fair to the sponsor that is wasting their resources on you, hoping that you're going to then tell people to use their product and or service. Another suggestion I have is get to know the company if you don't know anything about them. I tell people this story all the time about Blonix. When I first started the Strength Agenda, they reached out to me and they asked if I was willing, if they sent me a tub of their HMB and creatine, if I was willing to try it and then write an honest review. And I loved the stuff, wrote a great review. I noticed the difference in this stuff, and then I started with an ambassador program, and then it eventually led to the sponsorship that I have now. And it was because I was honest, I was upfront, and I promoted it because I honestly believed in the product. And then the other thing is the agreement between you and the sponsors. Be active in that process. If you're trying to gain a sponsorship, try to be a little more active in the agreement process. Make sure that the agreement favors both parties involved. Otherwise, what's the point of it if it's only one-sided, you know? And then the other thing too is be reasonable in your demands with the sponsorship. You're not Michael Jordan. You're not Usain Bolt. You are not the top of your field, most likely. And if you are, good for you. But also be reasonable. Be reasonable in the scope of your sport. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you guys. Weightlifting is peanuts compared to a sport like the NFL, basketball, etc., etc. So demanding X, Y, and Z is probably not going to fly very well, and it's not going to land you very many sponsorship deals. Be reasonable. Be properly compensated for your time, but don't be over the top in your demands. That's going to turn off companies, and all these companies talk. Your name is going to get out there as a jerk or this or that. So be reasonable in your demands in terms of compensation when you're working on agreements with these companies. The best way to get the sponsorships, be active, whether it's social media or anything along those lines. Just be active and be consistent in your posting. I know that there are times where I kind of get in little bits of ruts where I don't post stuff, but I try to make sure I do the bare minimum. Not necessarily the bare minimum, but I try in my bare minimum for what I consider reasonable for my sponsors and my personal stuff and my business stuff. Just be consistent in your posting. And be diverse. Don't post the same thing over and over and over again. You know, make it a little funny, make it a little serious, add a video, add a picture, put the product in a weird place while you're training or something like that. Just be diverse in how you do it, but be consistent, because that's going to help get the message across clearer than you just sitting there being like, use my code, buy my product, thank you. Like that's not going to get the job done. So just keep that in mind too. It also actually helps if you compete in the sport that the company promotes you at. I see a lot of these people who are listed as weightlifters or power lifters and all that, and I look at the national lists when they come out for nationals, the American Open, these big meets, and I never see their names on there. So I'm really confused how these athletes are considered weightlifters or whatever when they don't actually compete in the sport that they're getting sponsorship for. So keep that in mind too. It helps to be, you know, competitive, whether you're doing a bunch of local meets or whatever, but just be in your sport that you're trying to promote for. And then, like I said, you know, I've always said, like, actually use their stuff. Don't just take it because it's free or this or that. Like, actually use the product that they're giving you. Things not to do. If you have less than 1,000 followers, I'm sorry, it's just how social media works. If you have less than 1,000 followers, a lot of companies are not going to be willing to work with you. You could be the greatest lifter of all time, but if you have less than 1,000 followers, that's not going to be a big reach to them. That's not going to be a big audience that their product is going to get to. So work on building that up a little bit through good quality content, active posting, consistency, stuff along those lines, and that will get your numbers up, and that will also help these companies in terms of being a little bit more interested in you. Make sure you bring something to the table, something unique to the table, whether it's coaching, whether it's a weightlifting team, whether it's you know, just something in general. Whatever you find out what your special skill set is, and make sure you make it apparent that that is what you bring to the table. There are a ton of athletes out there that have really great looking bodies and mediocre lifts and can promote the crap out of their stuff, but make sure that there is something that separates you from the pack that makes it worth that company's time to sponsor you and compensate you the way you feel you need to be compensated. Like I said, the other thing about the being in it for the free stuff, companies can kind of figure that out really quick. So if that's what the only reason you're in it for, don't make that, you know, blaringly obvious. Companies will be able to sniff that out, and they will drop you faster than you can blink. Private accounts. If your Instagram account is on private for a work-related thing, that's cool. But if it's just on private because whatever, that's not going to help the companies out, because people have to request to view your stuff, and that's going to be that's not going to help the company that is, you know, sponsoring you out if your account is private. So if your account is private and you're just doing it so you can go comment on people's stuff but they can't comment on yours, don't do that, especially if you're trying to get a sponsorship. The do's, make sure you tag them all the time. Give honest endorsements of the products. If you have a business, advertise in the business with a banner, with a little logo, something along those lines. YouTube is a great advertising tool for the product. While you're doing a video or anything like that, you can be wearing the stuff that, you know, these companies send you and that they tell you to use. And, you know, use your like I said, use your skill set to promote them to the best way possible. If sponsorship's not a deal, offer to be an ambassador at first. Get a discount on this stuff, and then prove that you are worth the investment down the road, and then actually wear and use the stuff. I don't know how many times I got to say that, but just make sure you guys are actually believing in what you're promoting, believe in what you're sponsored for, and be honest with people when they ask about it. Don't just give them some snake oil sales pitch. Believe in what you're actually doing. That one was a little longer than the other ones, but hopefully that helps you out if you are trying to obtain some sort of sponsorship. You guys have any other questions, comments, or concerns, find us on our Instagram at The Strength Agenda, or on Facebook, just simply The Strength Agenda. You can find me at I am Tom Soroka, or go to the Strength Agenda website, or comment below, and we'll be able to get your questions answered. We'll do more of these and get these out there for you guys. Until next time, take care.